So there's a lot of discourse online right now about the importance of looks in your life, and I think that there's been a lot of people who have been kind of accurately criticizing sort of how overrepresented that is, but I don't think that it really breaks through to people like how kind of made up that is. And my example is going to be I I never really characterized myself as a very attractive person until there started like being people talking about like beauty standards for like men so much online. Um, I never reaped the benefits of anything like that. I feel like I have had pretty regular experiences. Um, Dating wise, I definitely have usually been in there was a certain age where like after that, I like was in a relationship like way more than not. But I feel like I had pretty regular experiences, like a mixed bag of like good ones versus bad ones. You know what I mean? Like any human being does as they are growing up and getting older. But then people started talking about male beauty standards and lookism a whole bunch on the internet, and that's actually where that's where I started to like sort of observe like certain aspects, certain facial features. I mean, I always knew that being skinny, like for example, in my friend groups, I was always made fun of for being skinny, and like when I was like younger a little bit, I actually got bullied like for just being easy to pick on because I was skinny. But I always like had the understanding that that was like still like attractive. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of the discourse around looks and lookism on the internet is a lot of honestly just like fat phobia, um, or not even really fat phobia. So I mean, yeah, no, it honestly is that. It's a lot of people they just see, being skinny as the most attractive body type, and while that is technically like the healthiest body type, and people are usually attracted to other people who look healthy. It's just true that there's a lot of people who, in real life, who you will meet who have very different standards for beauty than the internet does. I, for one, am personally attracted to women of all body types. For example, I'm attracted to women that are extremely, petite and women who are, extremely curvy. And that is not something that I think is very rare, honestly. Like, I genuinely believe that although online there's a lot of discourse, and I mean, I feel like it would be more so that for women than men. So it's like, I feel like men are the ones who are more like objectifying about women's bodies. So it's like if I personally, as a man, have like no preference, like I will date anyone unless they're like morbidly obese or like extremely like disheveledly skinny. I feel like there's probably lots of you know what I mean. I feel like women would have like the same thing. So a lot of men who are extremely self conscious because the internet is selling them skinny supremacy. I feel like it's more has to do with confirmation bias and their low and their low self confidence, because it's like if you have really low confidence because everyone's telling you you're ugly, and then you're not that confident, it's going to be really hard to attract women because all women really care about is confidence. And I know I'm going to sound like super, clear pilled for saying all this. That's what people are going to say. But like, I genuinely believe that anyone can make themselves attractive even if they're still kind of overweight. You know what I mean? Like, there's like a lot of hygienic things that you can do. I'm personally a huge believer, and I know that a lot of people are gonna say this is a clear pill, but I personally believe that style is a form of expression. Like the clothes you wear, that women are super duper attracted to because women all they care about is like individuality. So I feel like a lot of people online they're sort of just, and I've been reading this book, and it talks about how when you create negativity in your mind, that's just kind of an excuse. You know, Anger is an excuse because you're feeling angry so that you can, release harm on another person so that you can feel, better about yourself. And so is the same thing as goes for low self confidence. Like if you are, telling yourself, oh, because I am this, I am unattractive, what you're truly doing is just giving yourself an excuse to not go ask your crush out, giving yourself an excuse to not go flirt with women. Um, and honestly, the reason you're doing that is because it's way easier. And it is true. Like, I mean, I'm just kind of saying what this book that I'm reading about psychology would say about, this. However, I do personally believe that it'll be a lot easier to talk to women if you put effort into yourself, into your appearance, into your hair, into your skin, and most importantly, into your body by working out. Um, so I feel like I feel like that's pretty based. It's pretty based assessment. Like I feel like a lot of people who are super black pilled and they're just like focused on talking about how like looks is the only determinant. I feel like they're saying that kind of just as an excuse because they have horrible personalities. Like obviously there's tons of people with great personalities who are black pilled, and like there's people who have great personalities who are doomers. But I feel like just kind of less so. You know what I mean? Like I feel like if you have those negative perspectives about yourself to a degree that you're opposing them on other people, yeah, no one's gonna want to like hang out with that person. Someone who has such like deep rooted malice for other people, like just think about it. Like I know a lot of people love to like have this like huge cope of saying that they were like pushed into it, but I mean like life is rough. You know what I mean? Like there has never been a time period where being a child was not extremely hard. Like there's so many like stories. Like read any book. Like I feel like a lot of people who are doomers didn't really read books. But if you read books about the past, you will see that the average experience for a child was super rough. Like you were probably getting bullied way worse than anybody's getting bullied now. Like you were getting physically beat up at school just because you wore glasses, because nobody had seen glasses. So I feel like a lot of people who say they're black pilled, that's just because we live in a very sheltered society where you're taught as a kid that there's no reason you should feel bad. And I think that that's kind of not true. Being like feeling uncomfortable, feeling pain, those things are necessary for life, like for you to grow and understand reality and become stronger as a person. So yeah, I personally am one of those people who, at a certain point in my life, when I would get like in a situation where I felt embarrassed, that would ruin my entire week. Like I would get super nervous and stuff, and like have just like weird social interactions, and I would feel really really bad about that. But then there just kind of came a point in my life, and I'm gonna talk about this like how it relates to skateboarding a little bit in a second. But there became a point in my life where I had just been exposed to so much embarrassment that it kind of just like how much it mattered just sort of wore off. You know what I mean? Like it kind of just didn't matter at that point. Like I've been embarrassed so many times. Like what's gonna honestly like happen if I like don't just like try and like just like do the thing that I really want to do, even though I'm really afraid of it. Even though if I get embarrassed, like and honestly that never went away. Like I'll be so serious. I'll be the first person to say that like when a socially awkward situation happens, like I feel sick to my stomach. I feel revolted at myself. Like if someone just like asks me something hella normal and like I respond really weird, like that'll fuck me up. But that doesn't stop me from living my life. That doesn't stop me from going out and doing those things. And I'm gonna take a drink break right here. I talk about skateboarding a ton on this channel, and that's because it changed my life. It really did. I really think that skateboarding was one of those things that really just changed the way that I carry myself in social settings. Because when you skateboard, and I know that like a lot of people like talk about this, but I think that people who don't skateboard don't get it. Skateboarding is a lot of falling down. Like it is so much falling down. There's so little excuse me. There's so little actually hitting tricks until you are very, very good at skateboarding. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to spend a lot of time falling down and getting hurt. And if you are a true skateboarder, if you're a real skateboarder, you're bringing that skateboard everywhere. You're skateboarding in any scenario. that you're available to skate, and that means school for a lot of people. And me personally, in my school, I was skating all the time, even though it wasn't technically allowed. But if there's no one looking around to tell me to stop, I mean, what's gonna happen? So I would skateboard a ton, and I would fall down all the time. I would bust my ass in front of huge groups of people, and people would laugh. Other people would say, "Are you okay?" And that's the worst feeling, when you fall on your butt and someone's asking you if you're okay. Of course you're okay, but it hurts. So like what are they doing by asking? They're asking if I broke a bone. No, you never really break. But I mean, if you break bones, that would be horrible. That would just be so awful. You wouldn't even care if you like fell down and snapped a bone. I've never gotten like seriously hurt. You know, just wrestling with concrete. That's honestly nothing crazy if you really think about it. Little kids fall down all the time. And they don't even bat an eye. So it's like, how am I going to be weaker than a little kid? And that's honestly something that I want to say. I think that a lot of people who are super doomer, they have like, and I watch a lot of these videos because honestly, a lot of times I relate, but a lot of times I also feel like even though I might relate a little bit to the actual experiences that they're relaying, the fact that people are holding on to these experiences so much just kind of shows a little bit, to me, it just shows like a little bit of like a disconnect, I feel like. Like I feel like people are disconnected from like how insignificant it actually is. Like people will get online and tell a story from years and years ago about how there was a girl and she like said something and then you like didn't think of anything to say, and that'll like really hurt them and really impact them. And it's like, what world do you live in where that is like your worst experience, where that like actually like hurt you as a human being? Because in my reality, like, I mean, and I think in a lot of people's reality, I think in everyone's reality, like you don't really realize this, but like you could really die at any moment. And skateboarding, you really come to that conclusion a lot of times, You think, oh my God, like I could have really just bashed my brain on the ground and I could have been a paraplegic for the rest of my life. I could have been a vegetable for the rest of my life if I had just fallen a slightly different way. And I personally think that having kind of like experiences like that kind of keeps you in check, when you fall down on the ground and you bust your ass and there's tons of people looking, kind of in that moment, you sort of realize that like those people laughing, the pain, like when you're on the ground and you're really in pain, you're going to realize right in that moment that the people laughing don't really matter. The pain is what matters. And I've gotten a lot better at skateboarding. I barely fall down now, and when I do, it's like really not that bad, even though I'm hitting tricks that I would have been blown away by if I was hitting them in high school. I would have, my jaw would be on the floor that I could even do that. And now I do that, kind of like in front of people pretty oftentimes, in front of my friends and stuff. Whereas beforehand, I would have been so embarrassed, like falling down, before I got into skateboarding. And then once you do it, it's like you don't really have a choice. You will fall down if you're really skateboarding. So yeah, I think a lot of people, and I know that if anyone views this and they are a doomer, they're super into lookism and not actually into aesthetics or like working on themselves. There's a lot of people online that I realize are like that. They're just so doomer. They spend all their time thinking about how other people being more attractive holds them back, and they don't even work on being more attractive. Like, I genuinely don't understand that thought process. I mean, I do. I know that it's people with like low self-esteem and low self-confidence, but I just feel like they're, and I don't want to make fun of them, but like they're just so soft. And I mean, I might title this video Why I Hate Incels, but I genuinely believe that the type of people to complain about all this stuff, like the greatest majority of people who are complaining about this stuff are involuntary celibates. Like it's a huge group of people, and I'm going to talk about why I dislike that so much. Fuck it, I'm going to go off. If you identify as an involuntary celibate, the name literally implies involuntary celibate, that you are owed. It literally implies that you are owed intercourse just because you are alive. And I don't think that you're owed anything. You're not owed a single dollar. I wish we lived in a reality, honestly, where everybody could just exist and thrive, and like, people who, everybody could just be like, supported by the government. I think the government should serve to, help the people. And we all want to live in a utopian society where we all just engage in like, soft hedonism, You know what I mean? Like just going to the park, having families and stuff. I think we should all live in that reality. But sadly, we don't. We live in a reality where everything you get, you have to get for yourself. So the people who spend all their time thinking about why they can't get stuff, it's just it's just weird to me that they come to the correct conclusions sometimes. Like I mean, to some degrees, like all these people are talking about like Chad. Like if you get tons of girls, then you're Chad. And I mean, I just don't think that it makes a lot of sense to me personally because I mean, I'm someone who has the experience of like having success in dating, but as someone who has like problems socializing outside of that. And honestly, I think a lot of people who are good looking, I don't think it's like an absurd thing to state that like people who are good looking can have like problems with anxiety and stuff. But if you talk to these people who are so focused on like, being doomers, they'll tell you that it's impossible. They'll tell you that every single person who looks good is just like so good at socializing and like so perfect at like talking and stuff. Well, I will just say, I mean, I only have the experience of a male bodied person, but I've had mostly, and I talk about this a lot on the channel, but I mean, it honestly really helps me talk about these subjects. I've had, oh wow, the lighting is so much better these days. I have had a lot, like mostly female friends, and let me just say, being attractive does not mean you will not have issues. As a woman, that's for sure. And I mean, I have the experience of, I don't really, like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't really consider myself attractive, but like women tell me I'm attractive. So that must mean something to these people, you know what I mean? But yeah, I've definitely had issues socializing, and I think that kind of everyone has issues socializing nowadays because of social media. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that I like just give up on trying or that I like blame other people in society for what I do or don't have. And I think that the people who do, the people who, claim that they're part of a certain group simply because they haven't put in the work into themselves to become desirable, I think that that is really like weak and defeatist. I really believe that a lot of the people who like claim to be involuntary celibates, the things that make them so insecure that it changes their entire personality to like become part of that community, the things are all really changeable. And I know that there's like certain aspects of your personality that will never be changeable. And like part of me genuinely believes that like it's these people's like personality. Like, and here's the other thing. If you hate yourself and if you spend all your time like wallowing in negativity and thinking bad thoughts, that will corrode your personality. Like it's just like a very true fact. Like the more time you spend like putting other people down in your mind, because that you think that they are like on your same level, the worse your personality is going to become. Like the less funny your jokes are going to be. Like I don't think a lot of people understand that like personality does not exist in a vacuum. I'm a very solitary individual, but I really realize that even when I'll spend a lot of time by myself, I can still like accurately assess the differences in like myself as like a lot more when I'm like around other people, if that makes sense. Like when I'm hanging out with someone and I'm having a conversation, that's where I realize, oh my god, I'm like not depressed anymore. Like I used to have issues with, sadness or whatever. I mean, I'm not saying like or whatever. I'm talking about like kind of recent times, and I really notice when I come out of like a funk like that a lot more when I'm around people than when I'm alone. And I think that's like kind of like low-key like duh, but like I don't think that people realize that like by spending like so much time that is alone, super unproductive, that's like really gonna be like limiting your ability to like kind of improve as an individual. Like your personality is not gonna have time to evolve. Oh, the reason that the mobs aren't dying because of the rain, I think it's like no duh, but like you really are what you consume. Like no one's gonna want to be around the guy who, when he finally talks to someone, all he has to talk about is all the reasons that people wouldn't talk to him. You know what I mean? Like that's It's just not going to be a fun cup of tea. And I don't think that a lot of people realize that. Now, I have talked to people who are super doomer and they're super black pilled, and it's not like they're not fun to talk to. It's just like anytime you have a conversation with them about that, it's very somber. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a lighthearted thing. So if you just imagine that you're like, that you're friends with someone, right? And they're constantly just bringing up, oh wow, like that person's overweight. Oh wow, that person's really skinny. Wow, that person's really overweight. That person's really skinny. You're gonna be like, okay, dude, what is wrong with you? Like, is this a game to you? Like, are you counting, like in a notebook? And what you're gonna tell them, or what they're gonna tell you, is like, oh no, 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 no. You know, I'm just like, it's just like how I think. You know, I've just like watched so much content, you know, about, you know, comparing people. And you might think, oh, well, that's ludicrous. Who would do that? Well, that is what people who are super doomer and super bipolar are subconsciously doing. Like, a lot of people, I feel like it really just boils down to that. Like, a lot of people talk about like attractiveness and like Chad and like who has confidence and who doesn't. And it's like, I really think that all that is sort of like in their heads. Like, if you watch videos like this and you don't spend a lot of time like outside, you're gonna kind of have a very skewed like version of reality. And I know that like a lot of people's experiences may like benefit that, but what I'm realizing, and this is just like me, you know, this is why I relate to these people, is because a lot of people's main time socializing is in school, and they get out of school and they're just a loner, and you're probably a loner in school. But like, again, like I said at the beginning of the video, if you read books, school has always been like that. School has always been horrible. But people just like lived in a society where you had to just be around people for your entire life, no matter the age. Like, you didn't have to do any extra work to like make friends. You were just going to have friends if you lived in a community. You know what I mean? Like, if you live in a house, people are going to come up to your house and like talk to you. And now we don't really live in that society anymore. And lots of people are super jaded and they think, oh my God, like, I'm not super attractive. Like, I'm totally doomed. When really, like, in reality, like, they are just basing, you know, their one like hard experience in life off their entire life, when it's like, you need to grow and like evolve past that. And I feel like a lot of people, and this is, I mean, it sounds brutal the way when I say it, but like, this is like the truth that people need to hear. This is like what people need to hear, stop being babies. But like, I know that I watch a lot of people's videos who are older, you know, because I want to get an insight on like, you know, the 27-year-old, the 31-year-old, you know, the 40-year-old, and what it's like for them if they've been consuming this content for that long and how their life feels. And a lot of them say that the workplace is really the same. But it's like, yeah, the workplace is the most like toxic environment ever. Like, everyone there just wants to make money. Like, they're not there for pure intentions. Like, it's just so like, this is like, you know, a new agey term, but like, it's so low vibrational. You know, you're just around low vibrations when you're at the workplace. So like, of course people are going to be like on their worst behavior and on their most primal instincts of like who's on the in group and who's on the out group. You know, the real place you should be making connections is not in your job, but like all the places that are like outside of these, like, I don't know, I mean, I don't even know how to explain it, but like, if you're in a situation where like there's rules imposed on you, that's not going to be a regular social situation. Like, school isn't a regular social situation, work isn't a regular social situation. And a lot of people, they just go to college, they go to school, and they go to college, and then they go to work, and they don't have any social interaction outside of that to really and I'll be the first person to say it is really hard for me to get like the proper amount of social interaction. I would even say that I don't get the proper amount of social interaction, but I do like make efforts to go to areas where there's going to be people who are on my wavelength. Like, if you're super into music, and everyone's super into music, like, you need to be going to shows like of that genre. Like, I promise you, there are shows everywhere. These people put tons of effort into making music, and like, you need to support them. And like, there's music in literally every town. There are bands, and they play at venues. And if you're someone who's super lonely, you need to just like pay money to like go to these like music events. Like, I see a lot of videos that are like, oh, we don't like going to bars, you know, nightclub culture is dead and all this stuff. But like, live music culture is not dead. That's very alive and well. And the reason why it's so much better than I mean, and a lot of it will be in bars, but like you're like standing up, you know. The reason why it's so much better than going to a bar, because when you're going to a bar, or like and just really any place that like all the doomers are talking about, you're just there to socialize, you know. Versus when you go to a music event, you're around other people who are like-minded like you, and you can stand there the entire time completely silently and get value out of the situation. If you're at a place where the only reason you're there is to socialize, that's going to put a lot of pressure on you. Like I don't have any inclination to go to a place where like the only thing to do is socialize. I have no inclination to go to a bar. I don't have any inclination to go to any like hangout area like that. But you know what I do like to go to is I do like to go to music shows. I do like to go to, you know, the skate park where there's lots of people doing like the same thing as me. I do like to go play basketball at the park, you know, and there's other people to play basketball with. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of people they just only have like internet interests. And I was actually gonna make a video on why it's super important to have like interests that are outside of the internet. But it totally is. And like, but the thing is that like, I mean, even I feel like people even like do like video game meetups, but like, there's so many like, you can go get into comics, go hang out at a comic shop. You can get in if you're super into video games, get into tabletop games. There's a huge tabletop community. Huge tabletop communities everywhere. There's huge. Get into a card game if you're super into gaming. You know what I mean? Like, there's no excuse for you as somebody who just consumes media to like not pick up a hobby and like go do it with other people. You know, like there's so many conventions everywhere, and like all these things are perfect because you just go do a thing. Like even if you're super bad at socializing, you have to be around other people to do the thing, and they will do it with you, and it will be good, and you will spend time around other people. And the thing is, if you're doing one of these things, like if you're going to like a comic book shop that has like tons of cards, that's how it is nowadays, and you know there's like an area to play like card games with people, and you go play a card game, they're gonna be just like you. You're gonna realize you have way more in common than you have different, and it's way easier to make friends, as opposed to like someplace like the workplace where it's completely arbitrary. You know, everyone's so different. You know, you're meeting all sorts of crazy types of people who are just there to make money. So when I hear all these stories online about how people don't go out and socialize at all, it's like, maybe you need to try socializing in a different way. Maybe you need to try socializing in a low stakes environment where you're not there to socialize and put pressure on your anxiety ridden self. You're just there to do a thing. And yeah, I recommend honestly picking up, like, if you go to the gym is the easiest one. You literally go to a place and there's tons of people, and you know, you have very short conversations like, oh, are you using this? Like, hey, can I help you? Can I spot you? Or like, hey, can you spot me? Like, literally just get into the bench press and ask people to spot you. Like, you're guaranteed you're going to have like little conversations where you're taking turns spotting each other. And like, I don't know, that stuff reminds you you're a person. And like, it'll remind all these doomer people that like they're people too. And they're allowed to go out and have normal experiences. People will not treat them as differently as they really think. Like, and I know people will, like, you know, come into my comments and be like, oh yeah, well, I went to the gym and no one wanted to spot me. And it's like, yeah, maybe because you were sitting around, you know, the entire time staring at everybody while they work out, you know, thinking about if someone will spot you, you know. I don't know. Like, there's a million things. I can't give like a million reasons, but I feel like this was a pretty full and complete video. I feel like I said all the stuff that was on my mind. And thank you for watching. I hope that if you suffer from the stuff that I was talking about in this video, you take my advice. Just, you know, having because like even if you think I'm super wrong and there's no hope for you, still pick up a hobby. Because like, if you think that your life is totally doomed, find a good distraction, you know. Playing Pokemon cards like online and forming like a deck in real life, even if you never go and actually play a game at a card shop with anyone, that'll still be better than just sitting on your hands and like waiting for death. You know, that'll still give you more, just like, that isn't thinking about how lonely you are. Real shit. Yo, a tree fell down. That is cool. That's the new update. this is my first time playing the new update, I'm going to just play Minecraft and rant. And you watched it, so if you watch this all the way to the end, drop a like. If you want to see me play Minecraft, I might do this again, but mostly I skate on this channel, talk about skateboarding stuff. This video was kind of about skateboarding, kind of not. Most of my videos will have to do with social stuff in relation to skateboarding, because all I do is skateboard and think about skateboarding. Thank you for watching. Like I said, subscribe, like, but also comment down below if you have any similar experience. If you disagree with me, also comment down below. I can't offer the best advice ever, but the advice in this video is based, and if you don't take it, you're just a fool. And, you know, maybe your problems stem from you being a fool, not from anything else that you should blame on other people. Peace.